actually, even though Street Fighter dropped first, I did
Yes.
Fatal Fury first, the recordings. And I remember booking this. I was not aware fully of what this was for or
Hmm.
the character. And I had no reference of the Japanese voice actress, so I didn't know what she was coming in or anything. So I just saw, okay, the lines, voiced it, sent it in. And when they booked me, that's when I was like, oh, okay, great. They liked whatever I had. And when I was in studio, that was the first time they kind of gave me the rundown. Hey, this is what this is for. This is who she is. She's so iconic. That was the word that they used. And I remember getting slowly more and more scared because I was like, oh. So anyway, they said, yeah, so no pressure.
No
And
pressure.
when we were recording, they did tell me, bring what you feel to the lines. Like, we want you also to bring her to life. Yeah, so they would play me references of the Japanese voice, but of course, intonation is different, inflection is different, where you pause, where you put your energy. All of that is different with the different languages. So you kind of have to make it your own, even though you're listening to it and you kind of get the vibe. Yeah, so it is kind of surreal to think casting just knew what they were doing, to be honest. They, like, our tones matched very much. Sometimes I will be hearing the game and I will hear Mai in Japanese. And for half a second, I'll think it's myself. And then I'll be like, that's not me, right? Because we do have a lot of similarities. I have realized that. So I really appreciated casting for that. Yeah, so that was Fatal Fury. And I'll be honest, I don't think I 100% got my groove until Street Fighter, because she's just such a big character. There's so much to her. She has all this story and history, and I think I was absorbing that rapidly while I was doing the recording sessions. The directors were really free with me. Very little telling me, like, do it this way, this is what we want. I think we kind of had a good synergy. And I really appreciated them letting me put in my own creative input. And I'm so thankful that the fans love it. That's really the most important thing.
Hey everyone! Get ready to feast your eyes on the strongest Shiranui fighter around! Yo, Nipponichi!
Hey everyone, this is Rebecca Rose. I'm the voice of Mai Shiranui in Street Fighter 6 and Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves. And you are listening to Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. Want a little taste of Shiranui Fire? Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves.
Aloha and welcome everyone to another episode of Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. I'm your host, Mekel, aka Mekel Kasanova, and today we are joined by the one, the only, the phenomenal Rebecca Rose. How are you doing today?
Hey everyone, it is so good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor to have you on the show, and a lot of people have been very excited. Like, I know I put out that post about, hey, what are
Yeah.
your questions? There's so many questions,
I
but
saw that, yeah.
we're probably, guys, gonna have to say that for another episode because a lot of the questions are very specific, and we kind of want to make sure you guys get to experience Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, that way you can, get to play as Mai, and you don't want to keep her waiting.
That's
But
right.
nonetheless, we're gonna ask a couple questions about the game, but for the most part, the focus of this episode is learning more about Rebecca. So, Rebecca, how's your day been going so far?
It has been very good. It's been very chill. Looking forward to this podcast so much. So we'll see what comes out of me, honestly, because I haven't talked to anybody pretty much all day long. So you're kind of my first human interaction at this moment. So I'm starving for this. I'm really looking forward to see what kind of conversations just come up.
Okay, cool. And I guess to start it off, I want to know, how did you get into acting and as well as voice acting and music, because you're you're super multi-talented, and it's like there's so much stuff that you do. You're not just a voice actor, you're not just an actor, you're doing so much. How did you get into all of this? And spare no detail, let's hop in the DeLorean, we'll go back in the past and let's go ahead
Okay.
and learn about it.
I really appreciate that question. And I really appreciate you saying that too, because, you know, when you have a lot of different interests, and I'm sure you can relate to this, sometimes it can really feel like you're just doing a little here, you're doing a little here, you're not an expert in anything. Am I really good enough in this arena, or have I done enough in this arena to actually openly tell people, oh, yeah, I'm a singer or I'm a writer, right? If you don't actually feel like you have invested all your time and energy into that one thing. But I do love doing a whole lot of different things, and I've worked on a lot of different skill sets, which I guess is just it just kind of comes out through my work. Um, you know, if you ask about voice acting, I think I've had quite an interesting entry into
Mhm.
it. It's a little bit it's a little bit crazy kind of how it happened. Even I look back at it and I don't even know like this whole arc, how it brought me here. So just to quickly let people know, I'm with an amazing agency in New York City, and I've had the privilege of working with some of the best studios and great directors, and now to do an iconic character like Mai Shiranui, right? And I look back at how I began, and there's no way I would have considered how this could even be possible. So I started in Korea, and it's been about 10 years now, actually, doing
Okay.
voice work. And there's a lot I think people aren't going to recognize me from, because I primarily was doing most of my work in South Korea. Um, and you know what? It started because somebody just, I don't even remember who it was just like, hey, would you be interested in doing like this voice acting audition with the studio that I know? Just meet me there at like 9 p.m. on Friday night. I was like, okay. So I went to this random small studio in Seoul, and there were a number of people there who just wanted to audition. And I had never done this before in my life. I'm sure I had lots of voices in my head. I loved singing before. I always loved to read, and all of those skills kind of came together in that moment. But they just put me in the booth, and they had, you know, they'll have a screen where you can watch the scene that's happening or the commercial, and then you can line it up so that your speech is timing with it. And they had me do like I think it was like a beauty commercial. So you're just doing things like smooth, soft, and you're, you know, using like this luxurious voice for that. They're like, okay, cool, cool, cool. Then they showed another thing, you do it, you're like, okay, cool, cool, cool. And I distinctly remember the director was like, do you want to try something crazy? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm here, why not? By this time, it's probably like 10:30 at night. And they just put this little animated penguin on the screen, and there was no script, and they just said, just make sounds that match the penguin, and the penguin's going to do a whole bunch of things, and you just match sounds to it however you feel is right, which was, you know, kind of strange for me. I'd never done something like this before. So it's a little penguin, it like jumps out of bed, it jumps on the bed a couple times, it opens the windows, it breathes in the air. So I'm just making the sound effects to match with it, you know, like jumping off there, like uh, like this little character sounds. And even I felt it in that moment, like, oh, this is great. Like, this is fun, and I think I'm good at it. And I just remember the director and the staff was like, wow, that was so fun, that was awesome, thank you for doing that. And that's kind of how it began. The industry is a little smaller in Seoul. You know, the market is
Mhm.
just a little bit smaller in there. And also I was primarily doing English work, so it's even smaller, the pool. So I think my
Mhm.
name kind of got known throughout the studios and the castings and the directors, and it happened extremely organically. And I ended up doing lots of voice work. I did a lot of commercials. You might recognize my voice from a lot of Samsung commercials. I was pretty well known for that. And yeah, it kind of just grew from there. And when I made the jump over to the New York industry and stateside, the pool is much bigger. I was a small fish now in the big pool. I had a good portfolio to back me up. And so I was really fortunate to get picked up by this amazing agency that has now been sending me out to some even more amazing auditions. So it's just like, it's just so weird that it kind of happened like this, even me looking back at it. I don't even know, but I'm very thankful to be here today.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And yeah, it's really amazing for me, like learning everyone's like, you know, their genesis point in their careers, because
Mhm.
no two journeys are the same. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I want to get into acting or voice acting or music. Where do I start? And it's like, that's a great question because it can be literally anything.
Yeah.
Um, so with what were some of the other things you got to do, because you did commercials over there
Mm.
in South Korea, like what all did you get to do while you were, because I know you weren't just doing voice, you
Oh
also are a
yeah.
singer too, and a
Yes.
writer, so it's like, did everything start there, like that you were getting into, or like
Yeah. It's Yeah. A lot of things happen kind of word of mouth. Someone
Mhm,
mentioned this casually, you know what? Maybe you should talk to this person and see what they think. And slowly, 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 this is where I realized the power of networking, especially in Korea. When I was in Seoul and I was there for 10 years, I I got into radio. So I used to be the host of a live radio show, and I think it really kind of trained me better in a radio voice. I did late night stuff that would go out at like 2 a.m. and my primary audience would be taxi drivers. And they would even recognize my voice when I got in a taxi and they'd be like, you're the person who does? I'm like, yeah, that's me. So I would do that. And then I had an early morning show on Sundays and that was live and we worked with callers and that was really fun. It really helped me stay on my feet. And I did music. I used to be signed with this indie label in Hongdae. I don't know if you know much about Korea, but Hongdae is kind of like the indie artist scene. And so I was
mhm,
signed with a little label there, and I used to do underground performances. Probably the biggest one was we did a performance for Ultra UMF, and that was a little bit crazy, but we did that. That was great. I think my mantra has probably just always been, yeah, let's do it. And I ended up being able to try a whole lot of different things. I used to DJ, and yeah, I wrote a couple
same here.
songs and singles. You know, I don't think we're so different, to be honest, because I feel like you have done a whole lot of stuff and now you're running this amazing podcast and you're meeting so many cool people. So I really hugely respect that because I understand, the work that goes into that and just feeding that excitement and interests that you have and just trying your hand at everything. So, I mean, I ended up doing a whole lot of things in Korea. I did so much, but I look back at it now and I think I can draw on to some of those experiences when I
Mhm.
write or even when I meet people and in acting and all of that. So I think, it's all beneficial in some way or another. Even if I suffered then, now it's great.
Awesome, awesome. So, um, you're bilingual, right?
Yes, yes, I am.
Okay. So, which language is your first language that you learned?
My first language is English.
I'm
People tell me
jealous.
now. Oh, why?
Okay, so a lot of people think English is my first language. It's actually my third.
Oh, really? Tell me what's your
Yeah.
other two?
So my first language is Samoan. I'm originally from Western Samoa,
Okay.
and my second language is Tongan, is because I'm
Mm-mm-mm.
also Tongan. And
Mm-hmm.
then I didn't learn English until I was 7. So,
Oh,
but a
uh-huh,
lot of people
uh-huh.
are like, I can't tell because I
No, you can't. You can't tell. That's a good thing. Wait, so you grew up in Hawaii, right? Or did you grow up in Samoa? Samoa.
partially. So Samoa till I was 7. My dad's originally from Memphis, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
So I lived there for a couple years and then came out here when I was 15, 16, and I've just been out here for the last, man, I'm gonna reveal my age, 21 years.
You don't look a day past 20.
Oh my god. I've had people say I look 50 and I'm like, I'm only 36. Okay,
People
only.
don't know. People don't know. They're just saying stuff. Yeah. I was in Fiji actually a couple years back. I
Mhm.
think, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be mistaken, Fiji and Tonga are quite close to each other, right?
Yes.
Right. So, because when I was there, I remember meeting many Tongans, Fijians, of course, and a lot of Samoans. The thing that really stood out to me, and I think you're also representative of this, is how big everybody was. very big figures. Yeah, it was really amazing. I'm quite tall, but even when I was there, I was like, hey. So people,
How
you
tall are
like,
you?
I'm 5'9", which is
Fine.
quite
Okay.
some height.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but even there, I felt like, oh, I'm so tiny. Everyone is just so big.
See, I have this complex where I feel like I'm short, and it's just because I'm the shortest in my family. My sisters are taller than me. I'm
Uh
six
huh.
two. Two of my sisters are six, one 6'7", one 6'5". And I have one brother that's 7'1", and my other brothers are like 5'10". Oh, not 5'10", 6'10", 6'11".
Well,
So I've always been the runt. And so whenever I'm around anyone, they're like, "You're tall." No, I'm not. I'm short.
wow. That's really amazing. 6'11" though. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
My goodness. Tall jeans. But I
Yeah.
think 6'2" is a really, you said 6'2", right?
Yeah.
6'2" is a great spot in my opinion. I think no offense to your brother, but 6'11", you're gonna hit your head on a lot of doorways. That cannot be easy.
I mean, I have to ask them all the time whenever I see my brothers. I'm like, "How's the weather up there? Is it cooler?" Like, and they're like, "You're just short." I'm like, yeah, keep reminding me of that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. You're probably the only person on the planet who's gonna think that way. 6'2" is short. This is family trauma. Hashtag family trauma.
It is. So sorry, I had interrupted you. You were saying English is your first language, and then when did you learn your second language?
Yeah, so my mom's Korean,
Hmm.
and so I grew up learning, what we would call kitchen Korean. It's just a term that I say, kitchen Korean. So
Hmm.
I was accustomed to that, learning to read and write, but speaking English primarily. And then I went to Korea for college. I was there for a year, and that was kind of where all of the things that I've been hearing were synthesizing together into a fully formed language. I also studied a lot, but I think I had a big benefit of having listened to Korean my whole life. And then, of course, living in Korea for 10 years, I used Korean so much. I think my English got worse. And that's why when I'm here in the States, some people are like, wow, your English is so good. I can barely hear an accent. And I'm like, well, you shouldn't hear any accent. But I think it's somewhere in me, and I think I was just so accustomed to speaking Korean
Hmm.
and a little broken English. Now that I'm here stateside, I find myself fumbling a lot. So I'm working on that. But yeah, so now I speak Korean fluently, but I honestly think it's kind of like you're bad in both languages. That's that's kind of where I am at this point. Yes, so I can pass. Let's say.
Okay. Okay. So what is it like? So you're in New York currently. Like, what is it
Mhm.
like? Like, was it a huge shock or transition going from South Korea to to New York? Like culturally, is it as busy or busier? Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah. Um, it was quite a shock, to be honest. So growing up, we did move a lot around the US, and I
Hmm.
never was rooted in one specific place. So I didn't really have an association with saying like, "Oh, I am from Colorado. I am from California." There was none of this. And so when I was in Korea, that's where I felt the most rooted. And then
Hmm.
coming to New York. And I also feel that New York is just a different beast entirely. I don't know if you've ever visited New York City. Have you?
Twice.
You have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Overwhelming.
Overwhelming.
Very
Yeah.
overwhelming.
That's the way I explain it to people. It's like you love and hate New York in equal parts intensity. So I think coming here wasn't like coming to the US. It was like coming to New York. Um
Yeah.
yeah, so I definitely felt a little bit like, whoa, this is a bit of a shock. Which was also bizarre because you had so many Korean Americans in my neighborhood who would
Hmm.
be like, "What? We're all Korean here. How come you're not fitting in?" But Korean Americans are very different from mainland Koreans as well.
Yeah.
So that was another adjustment for me, to be honest, that I'm still kind of figuring out. Then the industry is very different. Just the way agencies work was very different. Getting my name out before I was somewhat known in the industry, and then here I was like, just some newbie. So there are a lot of things that I was kind of figuring out and just feeling my way through. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so as you're there in New York, like what's a typical day like for you? Like, if you don't mind my asking.
Uh, well, it's not structured. I'm sure you understand that as well. Um, yeah, it's not structured. So I pretty much every day I'm doing auditions. It's not just for voice work. It's also for acting. It's for modeling and commercial, um, covering all the bases. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll be doing those auditions as they come through. And it does take a little bit of time and work to do those self-tapes. So I kind of consider that more my full-time job. Um, I'm trying to wake up early. I'm nowhere near 2 a.m. That's a little bit extreme, to be honest. Um, why is it that you wake up at 2 a.m., by the way? Is it just, are you like putting the show out? Are you releasing it at like 7 a.m. for audience purposes, or are you like 2 a.m.? You're just a vampire.
No, no, I'm a night owl. So
Uh-huh.
it's the getting up at 2 a.m. is just one of those things where I feel like with everything I have to do from, the podcast, I'm actually signed to an agency out here, Kathy
Mm.
Mueller Talent Agency. So I do acting and modeling out here.
Mm-hmm.
So between that, the podcasts, doing stuff for YouTube, TikTok, all these other different, oh my God, so many projects. So I mean,
Yeah.
so much stuff that I'm trying to, by getting up at 2 o'clock, I'm trying to acclimate to East Coast time
Oh, I see.
because, so I'm trying to, okay, I'm up, I can respond quicker to emails. Some of the companies I work with, primarily are on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Some are in Japan, so it helps being up early
Mm-hmm.
to deal with that. I don't like getting up that early, but
It makes
I
sense.
yeah. But what
Yeah.
doesn't make sense is I go to bed at 10 o'clock.
I was gonna ask. I was like, what time are you sleeping then? I mean, 10 is 10, 11, 12, 1. So you're sleeping for 4 hours? That's craziness. I mean, that's great. It's great, but I could never do that. When did you start changing that schedule, and was that difficult when you make that switch?
Um, I think I started doing this. I want to say I probably started doing this about 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
When I went back into remission. So that's when I
Oh.
started doing this. And
Uh-huh.
it's mainly just because I like, all right, well, doctors told me, because well, for those of you who don't know, and I'll say it to you, like I previously had colorectal cancer stage 3.
Mm.
And I went through a whole process where they're like, hey, you got 6 months left to live. And I'm like, great.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What can I do to probably edge that out? They're like, hey, start getting up early, working out, lower your
Mm-hmm.
calories, all this other stuff. So I was like, all right, cool. So I started doing that, and it just became a bit of a habit. Like, even if
Mm.
I'm super tired, 2 o'clock comes around, my alarm doesn't have to go off. I just wake up.
Your body just knows.
Yeah. So anytime I do anything, I'm very stubborn in the sense of like, if I want to get up that early, I will just force myself to just stick with it, to commit to it long enough for it to become a habit.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with like the little brief time I did being a vegan. That didn't last long. It lasted like half a year.
Uh-huh.
Then I was like, hey, I need my steaks. I
Yeah, I mean,
need
that was a choice. That wasn't giving up, right? You were like, I
right,
choose this option.
right.
I respect that.
So it's just one of those things for me that when I decide to do something, I just go all in with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is rough doing
Mm-hmm.
that, but nonetheless, it's something that I'm able to do.
Mm.
As I'm getting older, it's getting harder to keep doing that. Like, I don't know what's going to happen when I turn 40, but hey, I'm able to do it now. So
It's the power of will. I think will is kind of it's a muscle, right?
yeah.
So I think that you've been building that muscle over time, and then what becomes that then becomes habit, and that's such a great thing. Still 2 a.m. You know what? Your reason is extremely reasonable, let's just say, but 2 a.m. is so out there. That's crazy. So this is tied to your workout that you're doing, right? Because I see you uploading on Twitter here and there and all of that. That's so great.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's and I'm kind of slowly shifting to and I hate the term influencer. I hate that term. But I've had a lot of fitness companies, because I'm constantly posting fitness stuff. They're like, hey, let's collaborate. Like I had was it Celsius energy drinks, which energy drinks are bad for you people. Don't drink them, even though I'm drinking one now.
I hope Celsius is not listening to this podcast.
I know, right? I know. So I've had them reach out to me. Muscle Milk has reached out, a couple other companies, and so I'm just like, I didn't start doing this for that, but why not? I find it more fun to post about fitness than to post about gaming or tech or anything, because it just starts to become this shouting match. Hey, I like this game. That game is trash. Oh, okay. Why? Because my favorite influencer said so. Oh, okay. Oh, I like this TV show. No, it's trash because of this. And I'm just like, can we just, like, if you don't like it, just don't say anything and move on? I don't know.
It is interesting. I especially noticed that in so I would say 99% of my interactions that I have online with people who are fans of the game, of Street Fighter, Fatal Fury, Mai Shiranui, are the loveliest people ever and genuinely just love the games. And that's what I love to see, right? But then you'll have the 1% who just seems to go out of their way to be the opposite opinion of anybody else, and just to make that as loud as they possibly can. I guess you're going to come across that anyhow, right? With opinions and social media. But it is definitely interesting to see that. I think you probably see that a lot, especially in the gaming industry.
That, and I'm seeing it a lot with my fitness posts, with the whole, oh, he used AI to make himself look like that. No.
Yeah.
Getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, working out like a madman is how I got to this physique.
Well, let's be totally frank. That is also hard to believe, Mekel, 2 a.m. So maybe it's easier to just say, yes, this is AI. But you know what? I think that's how influence happens, right? Like, you're just doing what you love. So I understand that the word influencer kind of has a bit of a different feeling attached to it that you might not always like. But a true influencer, you're just doing what you love, and then people are inspired by that.
True. Very, very true. Okay, so I kind of, since we touched on social media, and you primarily had, good experiences since the reveal of Mai and your announcement that you're Mai Shiranui. How we're going to touch on that shortly, but over the last couple of years, like, would you say social media is as fun? Because me personally, I don't find social media as fun as it used to be. Maybe it's just because I'm older now, but people, I remember when we had the chat rooms, AOL chat. Yeah, I was there for that. LimeWire, all that. Yes. Napster.
I have to tell you something crazy before you move on to what you're going to say next. Okay. So I was kind of on the tail end of the Yahoo, I think it's Yahoo chat rooms.
Yeah.
And you know, you could randomly contact people, and if they're like, oh, hey, and you just chit chat and then you have fun, BRB, TTYL, all of that. So I made friends with this one guy. Okay, if he's listening, because he might listen. Kronos, I think it's Kronos. I used to call him Mr. Bread. Don't ask me. I was like a long time ago. Anyway, Mr. Bread, and we would chat on the Yahoo chat rooms. Just whatever. Okay, bye. It was just my one Yahoo chat room friend. You will not believe this. I think he follows me on Instagram now, and I think he's a gamer. So it's just kind of crazy to see this all come full circle. And the reason I say that is because I recognized his profile photo And I was like, you look awfully familiar. Now, I haven't reached out to him. I haven't said anything, but I'm aware of you, Mr. Brett, if you're listening. And it's just so weird to think about that. Anyway, that I just had to bring that in. So please continue. Continue with what you were saying.
Okay, so I was gonna say, like, I feel like social media used to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think more so when before we had the algorithms tailoring us to see specific things. Like, it
Yeah.
used to be, you saw the people that you follow, you saw their posts. Now, unless I interact with people, and it doesn't matter what, it could be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
It could be anything. If I'm not interacting with them frequently, I don't see anything they post.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of stuff, even if you hit not interested. I just find social media isn't as fun as it used to be. It just seems like there's a lot more angry people online now than before. I don't know. Do you feel that way?
I mean, there's a certain curtain of anonymity that social media allows. Maybe less so on Instagram, but more on the more talking forums like Threads or Twitter. And I think it can bring out an ugly side in people, and it can be a little bit tiresome once you start getting the forum gets bigger and bigger. I mean, public forum should be in person. I think where people are always best when we're in person and we're talking to each other and we're interacting and we're seeing our faces, and there's a little bit of decorum involved, I think, if you want to hold a reasonable conversation. And a lot of that gets stripped away online. And I do think we're seeing a buildup of that, to be honest. And then you're right, with the way that the algorithms are shifting, it's a manufactured sense of relationships that we're having with people. I manufacture this funny video because I know the algorithm will hook, so then I'll connect with more people, but I don't actually know you. You don't actually know me. I think that can be a danger of social media. So kind of like with a lot of tech, I just view it as it's neutral, but it can be used for bad purposes and it can be used for good purposes. But it sometimes feels a little bit harder and harder to do that, right? As a content creator, because you're trying to do it for good purposes. And then, you get angry men yelling at cloud, on every single post that you make. So I understand. I do feel sometimes social media is a necessary evil when you're in this space. But I try to kind of think of it in a positive manner. And I think with an influx of fans of Mai Shiranui, to be honest, did give me a fresh feeling. Like where I was seeing these new faces and people who were genuinely interested in my work, not in something that I'm manufacturing, but something that I actually did and I feel proud of. And people just come and find that and be like, that was so great and I loved it and I just can't wait to see what you do next. And I think that has kind of given me a bit of a breath of fresh air on the social media scape. Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of Mai Shiranui, like the queen of fighters, the second ever fighting game female fighting game character ever. Not many people have had the opportunity to voice her in English. And when I remember when the first teaser dropped and I heard your voice in that, I was like, you nailed it. And I'm someone, like, I used to watch I watched the original Fatal Fury OVAs that came out in the early. God, I'm aging myself so quickly with this. The ones from the early 90s. And like, it was spot on. Like your take on Mai is like kind of like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like an amalgamation, a chimera, elixir of like the previous English voice actress, and then a lot of your tone and inflection is similar to the Japanese voice actress. And I'm just like, it's perfect. I said the same thing to like Michael Allen Schneider, who did Terry. I was like,
right.
Oh my God, thank you. You did this character justice.
Yes,
and like you've done this with Mai in such a way that I'm like, it's so iconic. Like, I mean, I'm as I've been with Fatal Fury since 91, again, aging myself, but it's just, you've done the character so much justice. Like, did you have a lot of them like guiding you as to what specifically they wanted, or how much of you did you get to put into the character? Like, what was that process?
Oh, what a lovely question. Yeah. So, first, actually, even though Street Fighter dropped first, I did
Yes.
Fatal Fury first, the recordings. And I remember booking this. I was not aware fully of what this was for or the character. And I had no reference of the Japanese voice actress, so I didn't know what she was coming in or anything. So I just saw, okay, the lines, voiced it, sent it in. And when they booked me, that's when I was like, oh, okay, great. They liked whatever I had. And when I was in studio, that was the first time they kind of gave me the rundown. Hey, this is what this is for. This is who she is. She's so iconic. That was the word that they used. And I remember getting slowly more and more scared because I was like, oh. So anyway, they said, yeah, so no pressure.
No
And
pressure.
when we were recording, they did tell me, bring what you feel to the lines. Like, we want you also to bring her to life. Yeah, so they would play me references of the Japanese voice, but of course, intonation is different, inflection is different, where you pause, where you put your energy, all of that is different with the different languages. So you kind of have to make it your own, even though you're listening to it and you kind of get the vibe. Yeah, so it is kind of surreal to think casting just knew what they were doing. To be honest, they like our tones match very much. Sometimes I will be hearing the game and I will hear Mai in Japanese, and for half a second I'll think it's myself, and then I'll be like, that's not me. Right? Because we do have a lot of similarities. I have realized that, so I really appreciated casting for that. Yes, that was Fatal Fury, and I'll be honest, I don't think I 100% got my groove until Street Fighter, because she's just such a big character. There's so much to her. She has all this story and history. And I think I was absorbing that rapidly while I was doing the recording sessions. The directors were really free with me. Very little telling me like, do it this way, this is what we want. I think we kind of had a good synergy. And I really appreciated them letting me put in my own creative input. And I'm so thankful that the fans love it. That's really the most important thing, because it would be awful if I put my heart and soul at this and they were like, we hate you, leave forever. So luckily it turned out okay. And I have also grown to love, I think I've grown to enjoy my performance as well. We are our biggest critics, but the more and more I hear it, I'm like, you know what? I did nail that. You know what? That's awesome. That does sound like Mai. And I think that's the biggest praise I could ever give myself. And I was so nervous going into this. So I'm just very thankful it turned out the way it did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And yes, the fan reaction has just been absolutely like fantastic. And were you shocked at how much like people were gonna like resonate with your performance after the announcements?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny because when you record these things, you're kind of alone in the studio. You're standing there and you have a mic and you just have to conjure it out of yourself and present it to the world. Put it into the recording and then it goes into the image and the character. And you hope you do it well enough that the character comes to life with your voice alone. But you're never going to really know the final result until it's actually presented to the whole world at once. So I'm also getting that same reaction as people are getting that same reaction. So I was very scared, definitely very, very scared to see how people reacted. And I was completely blown away to see just the outright love. I think this is what I'm happiest about. There is an outright love and appreciation for Mai Shiranui, not necessarily an immediate outright love and appreciation of my work. And that to me is bigger, because that means I brought the character to life, as opposed to imposed my voice and my personality on top of this character that already exists. So I just was very grateful that people really loved her and loved her acting in English or speaking in English. And then, then people ended up finding me. And I also really appreciate just the gratitude and kind words that people have given me. It really, really means a lot.
Awesome. Granted that at the time we're recording this podcast, the game is not out yet, so
Mhm.
we'll probably need to do a second podcast, and then we can answer all of
Oh, great.
the like 180 plus questions that I've
Did you get that
gotten.
many questions? Oh my word. That's great.
Yes, I got a whole lot of them, and I don't think I looked at all the DMs I got with questions either, because I
Mhm.
just haven't had the time to look at all of that. But if you have availability again down the road after the game comes out, then we can definitely reconvene and answer
Absolutely.
more questions. But
Okay.
is there anything, and this will be probably wrapping up the question of any questions regarding Mai Shiranui,
Mhm.
is there anything you want people to look forward to when Fatal Fury City of the Wolves drops?
Well, we've already seen some of the gameplay, right? And it just looks so cool. I think the way the two games have distinguished themselves in terms of just graphic and design, yet stayed so true to the characters. I really, really love that. So I hope people can just anticipate enjoying this game visually. And also the music. Have you listened to some of the music? They are bangers. Yeah, so I just think the whole thing around, it's a great package. I don't own a game system right now, but I am eyeing possibly an Xbox. Just thinking like I'm gonna buy an Xbox just to play. So we'll see what comes up. Um, yeah, but I just think that it's gonna be a lot of fun. Honestly, it's gonna be so much fun. So I really hope people are anticipating it.
Awesome. So of all the different things that you do, from
Hmm.
modeling, acting, voice acting, writing, which would you say is your true love? Like, which has the most passion from you?
What a difficult question. Growing up, I would say it was music. I don't know about you, but when I hear certain songs, or musical phrases or notes, or even a voice, there's some strange catalog in my brain that has it very, very well organized, where I can know, oh, I know who that singer is, and they also did this album that came out at this year. This is the first time I
Mhm.
heard it. I was wearing this at this location.
Yes.
And yet I can't even remember my third grade teacher's name. Like, some of those things are very vague somewhere in the past. Yet these random songs, they'll just come to me. I'll be on set and I'll hear this song and they'll be like, hey, didn't they use that in the OST for this movie? And people are like, I don't know. That's Bob Marley. So, I just, music has been very close to me. And I used to watch The Little Mermaid and be terrified at the idea of losing my voice. And I would lay awake at night and think, oh my gosh, if one day I lose my voice and I can't sing, I can't speak anymore, will I even be me? And I would have this fear because that's how important it was to me. So if you ask me of my first love, that's certainly it. Now, as time has gone by, I've found writing has given me the outlet to really express everything I would want to say and take the time to express it in the way that I want it to be expressed. I think writing is one of the few mediums that allows that, where people can sit and appreciate over and over and over again, learn something new. And you can really put your heart and soul and thoughts into it without a limit of time or text number. Yeah, so I've found myself growing to appreciate writing more and more as time goes. Yeah, I guess they go hand in hand, right? Music and words. So those are probably the two things
Okay.
that I feel the most love. Yeah.
What when it comes to writing, like, what are some of the works that you've done that you absolutely love, or you feel the most strongly about?
So I don't know if people are aware. I also have, this is just a personal project that I've been doing for years now. It's called 혼혈이야기 or
Hmm.
Happy Project. And it's basically exploring the experiences of mixed Koreans culturally and ethnically worldwide. And I write a lot on my website, my blog, which does pretty well. Um, surprisingly, and I think it's the writing. I think people resonate with the writing. I started it out as my own outlet to kind of just express my thoughts. And I think a couple pieces on there I am quite proud of, and I've seen them get circulation. And it just means people resonate with what I'm writing. That is probably the biggest thing. One day I would love to write a book. I have so many short stories collected here and there in this journal and that journal. Maybe one day I'll put it together and put that out because I love to also creatively write. But I tend to write a lot of essays, I think, like thought pieces. I don't really know what that means, but maybe I just have too many thoughts. But I'm putting them out there. So I just love it when I get responses from people and they're just like, yeah, this is what I've been feeling my whole life and I just couldn't put into words. So thank you for putting it into words. And that's the power of writing. But I think, yeah, if you look up some of my pieces on the Happy Project, that's probably the stuff I'm currently most proud of.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, as
Are
far
you
as
still
like,
Oh, are you still DJing? What kind of music do you like to do?
so I haven't done it in, well, I haven't done a paid gig in probably like 6, 7 years, but I'm the type where I would throw country, some EDM, some old school 70s, 80s, R&B, slow jams.
Yeah.
Like what I learned, because I used to, so we have a radio station out here called, is it 93, no, 94.1. And I used to be, and it's so funny, people are going to be like, your name was what? Yes, I was
Oh, you
called
have to tell
Mr.
us.
Dougie
Okay.
because, and it's funny thinking back on that because I used to have a dance crew out here. We tried to compete in World of Dance.
Oh,
We used to
cool.
do b-boying, crumping, all kind of choreo type stuff.
Yeah.
And so I caught the eye of a promoter who also worked with the radio station out here. So that's how I got into being an MC.
Hmm.
And then my cousin, shout out to my cousin, Rudy, DJ Rude Dog, actually he let me do sets with him and he actually trained me on
Hmm.
DJing. So, and the thing he taught me was, okay, so if you're doing this for a club, you got to get people on the dance floor. And then when it's time to get them to spend money at the bar,
Mm.
play something to make them leave. So I
Hmm.
learned that. And then like we did weddings and other stuff. So I learned all the different tactics and techniques, which is why I get
Yeah.
so disappointed with modern DJs. It's like you can't just play the same popular song
I
5 times in a row within the last
so
30 minutes.
feel
Like,
you.
you know?
Yeah. There is a flow. There is
Yeah.
definitely like you need to read the room and you also need to bring something fresh to the table. It's an audio bouquet. That's what DJing should be, as opposed to like, all right, guys, listen to this, listen to that. I'm crazy about that. Sometimes I'll be at places and I'll tell my friends or I'll tell my husband like, this is not the song. This ruined it. This killed the vibe.
Right?
They shouldn't
Right?
have played that. Yeah. And I got hugely disappointed. I'm like, come on, guys. I know you're better than this. So I understand you, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do
because
you,
like I would, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you put your sets out anywhere? Are they on like YouTube or do you have just curious, because I'm always looking up new music.
No, I need to start recording them because like I feel like because okay, so I'll give you an idea of something I can do, like as
Okay.
far as like what I used to do back in the day. I would
Yeah.
spin, say, some Fergie and then
Yeah.
go from Fergie and I'll start playing Utada Hikaru. And
Oh,
folks would be like,
what
is
is
that from
that?
Kingdom Hearts? Like
Yeah.
I had some folks like, wait, is that the Kingdom Hearts thing? I was like, yeah. And then
Yeah.
slow that into some Usher.
Mm.
And then go from that to some K-pop. And
Mm-hmm.
then from that to some J-pop. And
Mm-hmm.
then back over here to a little country that has some flow to it. And folks are
Mm-hmm.
like, man, this is I would have people like, this
Yes.
is different. I like this. Like, yeah, because
Yeah.
I feel like when you're a DJ, you have to have a love for music,
You
and
have
that
to.
love for it has to come out, and you have to love as many genres as you can. Like I know personally, like a lot of modern DJs out here, like one or two genres, and all they
Mhm.
play is that. And I'm like, then you don't have a love for music.
Right.
Like music just it speaks to you. And
Yes.
and it doesn't matter the genre. It could be anything. And it's like I don't know. I could do a whole
I
podcast talking
I
about
completely feel
that.
you. Yeah, I mean, that was something I think with DJing, what surprised me when I learned to DJ was it was learning the mechanics of piecing together things that I was already doing in my head. Um, and that was really fun to learn. But you're absolutely right when it's about the different genres. So when people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm a hip hop DJ," that's cool. But there's so much that can match or work together with that, and it's like you're tickling different parts of people's brains when they're
Yeah.
hearing this. So like, what? What? Okay, So yeah, DJing is just such a great music is such a wonderful thing, and everyone can
It
connect to it.
it is. So speaking of which, let's
Mhm.
talk about your hobbies, things you like to do when you're not working, because you're working all the time. But like what do you like to do in your spare time? Like what are some of the things that just really like you can't wait to get the chance to set aside time to
Mm.
work on them or to indulge and enjoy them?
Mhm. Blah. So I suffer I think I suffer the case of my work has become my hobbies. I don't know if that's a positive thing, to be completely frank. Um, yeah, because I'm always like, oh, well, in my free time, I'm going to write, right? And then that turns into something else. And same with music, same with creating content and those kind of things. It does lose a little bit of that joy and excitement. I think if I had hobbies, I do love to read. So sometimes I'll just build it into my calendar. This is the day I'm going to the library, and I'll sit down and I'll like I'll sort out exactly which books I want. Sometimes I'll call ahead and be like, "Can you reserve this book for me?" And then I'll go pick it up when it comes in. Like it's a little bit nerdy, but that's something that I do enjoy doing. I really do love going to the library. Um, I don't know if you're a reader or you go to the library often, but every time I go, I always save a space in my book bag for a book that I don't know what it is. So I just see it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you a chance because every new author deserves a chance. It seems like 9 out of 10 times the books are not good. And this is why
Yes.
you just resort
Yeah.
back to the classics or, you know, lists of books that everybody should read. Anyway, that happens a lot, but it's great. I'm still stretching my repertoire. So I go to the library. I do like to cook. I recently got the Walks of Life recipe book and
Okay.
I started learning Chinese recipes. Very varied. So that's been a lot of fun. Do you like to cook?
I love to cook. So I have
Yeah.
a unique ability when it comes to cooking. I can literally smell something and tell you every ingredient that's in it and then go and replicate it.
No.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Really? Do you
Yes.
have like a specific is there like a specific food style that you're especially good at? Like you smell Indian food and because I mean like Indian cooking has so many different kinds of spices that are just sprinkled in here and there. I imagine I don't know if that's easy to distinguish everything or you're like, oh, Italian, bang. That's Parmesan cheese. Like, like you just know exactly. Do you have a specific one that you're quite good at?
So, any Dominican food I can cook
Hmm.
easily. My dad is actually Dominican, so I grew up with a lot of that.
Hmm.
I can cook Indian food. I can like easily, and sometimes it can be a little tricky because it's like I'm all right. He's got this. Wait, did I forget about that? Nope.
Hmm.
Let me write it down. And then like sometimes I'll go over to like the chef and be like, hey, this dish is really good because you gotta butter them up to get them to reveal some stuff.
Of
They're like,
course,
oh
of course.
yeah. So and then they're like, oh yeah, how'd you know that? Did you
Yeah.
taste it? I was like, no, smelling it. They're like,
Yeah.
"You want to come in the kitchen and cook too?" No. I don't want to do that. I just want to enjoy the food.
Yeah.
So Dominican food. I can do Indian food, like just off of smell alone. I can just replicate it. What else is there? Easily I can do Italian. My wife's Italian, so Italian Hawaiian, so I can easily do that. What else is there?
You know, having a good nose would make you great at perfumes. Are you any good at perfumes? You are? Look at you being all shy. You're being all shy. You run like your own perfumery, don't you? So you could probably distinguish.
A major collection.
Really?
I do.
That's awesome.
I do.
I recently tried to make my own perfume. I went to in Seoul. There's like I don't know what it's called. It's like you go and you can experience making a perfume. And so I remember I was smelling all these little different scents, and I was putting this and that. Oh, I think this is good. I think that is good, but it didn't turn out well. Like it's just very two-dimensional. What's the secret? Like, is there a, do you need more high notes? Woody? What is it? I need something.
It really all depends. So like for me personally, when I'm no shame to my fellow Hawaiians, especially the guys, but a lot of you guys need to stop using Axe spray.
Oh, everyone's using Axe.
Oh my God. Like, yeah. So I try to tell guys out here, I'm like, all right, hey, depending on what you're doing, you might want to try this cologne. They're like, oh, my lady, she dislikes that I use Axe. Okay, so if you know she dislikes you using Axe, how about you go and get some Victor Wolf or get some Dolce & Gabbana? I'm just saying,
saving a relationship one man at a time. Yeah.
Or if you really want your wife to be all over here, all over you, or your girlfriend, get Mashino Toy Boy.
Oh,
I'm just telling you guys.
Okay. Yes. It's honestly such a great talent, especially when it comes to perfumes and colognes, because it can be very hard to distinguish. And also the way that it changes on everybody's physical, you have your own physical chemistry that the perfume affects. So it might smell good on this person, but it doesn't smell as great on that person. It's so great. Have you ever read that book? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
There's like this, I think it's French, at least it's based in Paris, of the perfume guy. He was trying to make the perfect perfume and he was obsessed with it. And then he discovered it was actually a decomposed body that was creating the smell. And then he became a serial killer. But then he was making this incredible perfume that everybody went crazy for. And then they figured out what he did and they all tore him apart to a million pieces.
I've heard of that one. Yeah, I have.
Anyway, you remind me nothing of that, but it's a great book. And perfumes, it's a great skill to have. It's a great skill. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it really, and it's like, once you get really into like collecting perfumes or colognes, it can be an expensive hobby.
Yes,
I'm just gonna say that. Some of the colognes I have, I've spent a little bit too much money on it.
So this is like a hobby of yours, right? Collecting the perfumes and colognes?
Yes, that and soups.
Soup or soups?
Suits.
Oh, I thought you said soups. And I was like, well, I guess good. Okay, suits. Yeah. Suits is good. That's a great collection to have. I think more people should collect suits. We should bring suits back as the mainstream outfits.
Yes.
Suits are nice.
I mean, I see the kids now are wearing like bell bottoms, and you got all the young folks with the mullets now, and I'm just like,
well,
I remember when people made fun of mullets, and now it's just the thing with young guys.
Well, I don't know. That sentiment has changed entirely, but yes, people do wear mullets. I do like bell bottoms, though. You saw Super Bowl
Yes.
Wow. Why can I not remember his name? Who performed at the Super Bowl? Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar, yeah.
Kendrick Lamar and his bell bottoms. I guess you would call them bell bottoms, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, it was hugely millennial. Everyone went crazy over them. It was great. Yeah. So that's cool, collecting stuff, collecting perfumes and suits. It's a very bougie hobby to have. It looks very nice.
Yeah.
I can imagine. I don't know if your listeners can see you, but he's not wearing a suit right now, but I can envision.
That's one of the things too, like especially if you're here in Hawaii and you wear a suit. So typically when I used to DJ and when I used to do club promotion and whatnot, even when I used to do competitive dancing or battling, as we would say, I would wear a 3-piece suit.
Oh, really?
And a lot of people would be like, "Why are you so dressed up?" Because I stand out.
Yes.
Compared to wearing, the typical clothes.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like when I was working in IT, I was working in IT for about 12 years, and I would also wear 3-piece suits, and folks were like, "Who in information security does that?" Me. I'm the guy who does that.
Yeah.
So, it's just a thing. Like especially out here, typically the outfit, you'll see people in like a tank top like this or surf shorts, and that's kind of the general style, and I just feel like I'm the type who likes to kind of go a little against the grain. I'm like, I want to stand out because that's what caught my wife's eye, because I stood out. It's very smooth when I approached her. It's like,
oh well,
hey,
now you have to tell the story. Yes.
Yeah, so we met at the club is no longer here, but I was DJing and emceeing there and promoting. It's called Zanzibar. And she was at the bar, and she had this flowing red hair at the time, because she used to dye her hair red. And I walked up to her, I said, "Hey, how are you doing? I haven't seen you before." She's like, "Oh, I'm Leila." And then the conversation just kept going, and then I was like, "Oh, so what are you into?" She's like, "Oh, agriculture," because she was going to school for that. I was like, "Oh yeah, my family's in agriculture back in Samoa," and so we just kind of just kept going from there. And then we lost, because we met originally, I think it was either 2009 or 2010. We lost contact for like a year, reconnected a little bit, but then she was dating someone else, and I was like, oh, okay, I missed that window of opportunity. So time went on, and then we reconnected in 2016. And I won't say he was a friend. I have very few friends. I have many acquaintances. Everyone, for those who are listening, not everyone deserves the title of friend. Just understand that.
Okay. All your friends are listening. They're like,
they're like,
who are
is
you
he
talking
talking
about?
about? Like, are you talking about me? Maybe. I don't know. So yeah, we reconnected at this this acquaintances. Yeah, I know he listens. Yes, you're an acquaintance. I'm honest.
We're
to
just
a
letting
fault.
you guys know.
Yes. So we reconnected at that event, exchanged numbers, started going out. We would go to like hanging out as friends. We'd go painting and hiking and such. And then eventually, after 2 months of that, we started dating. I think we started dating April-ish of 2016, and then we got married in December 14th of that same year, and have been together ever since. Best friend. I'm a headache for her at times. She's a headache for me, but it works out.
That's so lovely. Did you wear suits painting and hiking?
No. Okay. But you know what? That would have stood out. Painting, yes. Painting, yes. Hiking, no. But yeah.
That's all right. You got to pass.
I know. Like, and we get along so well to the point where we complete each other's sentences. Like, and it's crazy when you're married to your best friend, or you're in a relationship with your best friend. It's like, huh. And then you look at all the other relationships, like, what the hell was I thinking? Like,
Do you understand what you've done? You've come on your own podcast. You've insulted all your friends, all the people you've dated in the past. I'm sure people love that.
I know, like, I had an instance where, like, okay, so I had one of my exes from like 16, 17 years ago recently reached out to me to she wanted to talk and catch up, and I'm just like, the whole time I'm talking to her, I'm just like, why the hell did I date you? Like, why?
Yeah.
You know, like, you ever have those moments where you're just like, I don't know why?
It just
Younger
means
self.
you have grown and changed into a better human. That is it's great. Sometimes we should look in the past so that we feel humbled. Oh, that's who I was. Now you can better appreciate, okay, let's take care of the current self. That's too funny. Oh my goodness. Well, I hope she's listening too.
Oh, she will. She will. Hi.
Hawaii's
I know she
number
will.
one podcast. Everybody's listening.
So I know we blocked out an hour, and I don't want to go too far over that, and I want to be respectful of your time because I know it's late where you are. What are some places that you love to travel to, or that you would love to travel to?
Good question. Well, I would love to visit Hawaii. I have never been.
Okay.
I think
We can make that happen.
Love for that to happen.
Well,
and
I'm saying that for a reason. I work press for the conventions out here, and
stop.
And yes, I'm doing KawaiiCon. I'm official press for KawaiiCon, for Amazing Comic Con Honolulu, as well as Comic Con, well, Honolulu Comic Con. So just those two last ones, they're too close together. But nonetheless, those are three big conventions out here. I do press for all of them, and I can connect you and your agents with them. So we can make
keep
that
me
happen.
in mind. Just keep me in mind. Yeah, I mean, I am going to a Comic-Con later this year, but that is in August. That's really far off. And I know there's Comic-Cons happening all the time. And so it is something that I would love to do, to visit as many as I can, meet people in person, be part of this industry in a human form, you know, because sometimes when you're behind the camera and behind the mic, you can feel a certain distance. So just keep me in mind. Keep me in mind. Yeah, Hawaii is definitely somewhere I would love to visit. Not necessarily as a tourist. I think I would just want to appreciate, I think. Yeah, I'd like to just go and appreciate. And then, of course, I always feel happy when I'm in Korea. And goodness, I really want to just travel. I want to travel all over Europe, just everywhere. If given the chance, I'd like to take 6 months, just travel. I have friends all over the place, and I would just love to be able to reconnect in person. Yeah. I mean, there's so much. Like, I think about it a lot. When I was in Korea, I did a lot of traveling, and I think I have traveled a fair bit. Yet I always feel like there's more to see, and I really love traveling when I know people who live there. So that, I think, is probably those would be the countries and places first on my list where I actually have friends, and then we'll see from there. I don't have any immediate plans at the time, but maybe Hawaii, who knows?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you? Do you have somewhere you want to travel?
That I haven't been to already. The only place that I really want to go to is Japan, because I've never gotten the opportunity to go there. And I have a lot of friends there. Australia is another place that I would love to go to, and I know my agency is doing some filming there. And I think I got an email about auditioning. I need to do that. See, I'm up early, but I'm not on top of everything I need to do.
I could see that, right? He's just up at 2 a.m. waiting for the sun to rise. He just says it. He's not actually doing anything.
I'm just sitting outside. The sun's not up, and I'm like, "Hello, darkness, my new friend.
Hello.
How you
Yes.
doing?"
Hey, you should probably check that.
I know, right? But yeah, those are two places that I would love to go, and I really find that traveling is very essential. I really try to tell because one of the things I get to do is I get to speak to go to the different high schools and colleges out here and speak to the students. And one of the biggest things that I emphasize to them is the importance of travel, because there's so many people, especially out here in Hawaii, that have never left their neighborhood or never left the island or, the city that they're in. And I try to tell them that when you get to travel and go to either other parts of the United States or other countries, it allows you to have a greater appreciation, not only for where you are, but a greater appreciation of different people, different cultures, different opinions. Because if you just stay where you are, that's all you'll ever know. And while I understand that not everyone has the privilege or the opportunity to travel, if you can, do it. It's very, very essential.
Absolutely.
And it helps you grow and develop more of your opinion on things and how you view the world.
Yeah, this is so true. I think travel is, given the opportunity, I even think people should push off. If you're going to university or college or starting an apprenticeship somewhere, sometimes I think push it off a year and go travel, go places, go meet other people, learn a new language. It really does expand your mind and help you to be part of a bigger conversation than what's just happening right here. Yeah, so I'm 100% on that. And you might also feel this speaking multiple languages. The more languages that you learn, it's like you unlock other parts of your brain and you're able to communicate on a different level with different people. I've always found that to be so interesting. Whenever I'm studying a new language, it's something I just really enjoy doing. But I don't know, I can't explain it, but when you're speaking in, let's say, Spanish to my Mexican friend whom I've always spoken in English to previously, suddenly it's like I'm looking at her in different light, because languages have that power. And I think travel does the same thing, and it's so important. So it's really cool that you're telling people to do that. And I'm also telling them to do that right now on your podcast. Go travel, people. Travel.
Yes, it's very important, and it really does help with your growth as a person. Like for me, I don't get an opportunity often to speak Samoan or Tongan, but when I do, it'll take me a minute to like fire that part of my brain, but then I'm like, oh, okay. So like when I got my tattoo, what we say tattoo, but tattoo for everyone else. I got mine's done traditional. This is my first one, so it went the whole chest piece down to the arm. This hurt. That really
must have hurt a lot.
Really hurt.
Yeah.
And the guy was very heavy-handed. He's like, because it's boar tusk and hammer. Sometimes it can be shark's tooth and hammer. And then for a lot of the other stuff, they had to fill it in with a gun. But mine's is a culmination of 3 different cultures, so Hawaiian, Samoan, and Tongan. When I was getting this done, a lot of people may not know this about me, even though I kind of hint at it. But I don't want to ride that part of my family's success because they built that lane. But I am part of the Anawa'i family, which is, for those who don't know, that includes Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, that includes Joe Anawa'i, who is Roman Reigns in WWE, the Usos, they're in there. When I got this done, my 2 cousins, Tamatanga and Tangaloa, who are in WWE right now, were there with their dad, and they're like, they're like, Toko, you getting this done? Which Toko is it's Tongan for brother. They're like, oh, looks good. And they just finished like the inner part here. It's probably blurry, you can't see it. And so they're like, oh, it looks good. as it was fresh. And I was like, they're like, oh, come on, Poco,
Looks
you Tongan, you
yes.
know how it is. And I was like, oh
Yeah.
God. But it's like, and we're just speaking Tongan, and the folks who did it, shout out to Soul Signature. If you guys want to get great tattoos, either ink or like traditional pen or hammer, traditional Polynesian style, they do that. Yes, shout out to Lope and Suasu Lope. Go check them out. They were speaking. They go back and forth between Samoan and Tongan, and when I auditioned tried out for WWE
I was
about
gonna ask. I was
a
gonna ask
decade
if you
ago.
did. Yeah.
I did. I've tried out twice, and the other time, the two times I was able to get in, I know how to do, run the ropes and do all that stuff. But I, in my personal life, I was in a very toxic relationship with my ex, so I couldn't focus on that because, yeah. But nonetheless, if I'm happy for my cousins that are in it. I'm actually considering trying out again. I was talking to my cousin Joshua Fatu, who you guys know as Jay Uso, who will be on this podcast this year. Shout out for that. Yeet. He's like, Uso, you need to go ahead and do it. It's time to do it. And I'm like, I'm a little old for it. He's like, Uso, I'm older than you. 39 going on 40. You're only 36. You know how to do all this. And this is our family's thing. I'm like,
okay. Is it something you really want to do? Do you feel like an obligation, or is this like, this is a dream I've always wanted?
It's both. It's one of the things because like I want to do it because I grew up a fan of wrestling. Something my dad and I shared, just a passion for. And also seeing, my family over the last 30-something years to it has been phenomenal. But it's also a part of me where I'm like, there's an expectation because I'm part of this big family. And a lot of people are like, oh, how are you part of this family? We've seen the Samoan wrestling tree and we know who all... No, you don't. No, you don't. You saw what WWE wanted you to see. You don't know how big that family is. But it is there is an obligation, and I think I could really be good at. I'm a very good talker. I can cut a promo easily. I can be face or heel. I can take bumps. Diving off the top rope, I can do that. I may get up a little bit slower now, especially if you go through a table. I know how to flat back and all that, but it's just a matter of the way it is now. You kind of need to go through depending. I mean, I could probably go directly just try out for WWE, but a lot of folks now are going the independent scene, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that.
This is a whole new world. Like, just hearing about it, I'm just thinking, how, I don't even know where you would even start. You just get in the ring and your audition is, I don't even know. I don't even know what you would do.
It kind of depends. When I tried out for WWE years ago, basically they want to know, they'll give you like a minute to do a promo, and I was able to do a promo, and they were like, "Oh wow, you got us believe in the character." Because literally, I did acting in high school and college, so I was able to, and I also do method acting, so I can get into the role of the character or the mind of the character. So there's that. But then you also have to understand your placement. Like, where are you in the ring? What are you, are you going to face the hard cam, which is the camera when you watch TV?
It's a lot
always... Yeah.
It's performance,
Literally. Like, you got to know where all the cameras are. You got to learn how to not only, like, before it was more scripted. Now it's like, be in the mind of your character. Like you also have to memorize certain key lines, but at the same time, if there's an audience, if they're not going to let you deliver the line, be it you're a good guy or a bad guy, you have to learn how to like play to the audience. Kind of, and that's where for me that was easy because I was like, oh, I know how to do this with DJ. So it kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things too. Like, it's you have to know all that and know how to run the ropes. So a lot of people think, oh, if you run the ropes and you hit it, oh, it's easy, or the mat is soft. No, that mat,
I'm sure is hard.
It's like literally if you were to jump up and land on a wood floor, it's hard. But that's why you have to learn how to flat back and throw your arms back. Hitting the rope, after a while, you'll develop calluses on the side just because that rope will take skin off. But you have to learn how to memorize your spots, how to call a match in the middle of, like, when you see people tie up or hold someone, they're actually talking to each other. Hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna throw you over here.
That's funny.
It's literally performative theater.
Yes.
That's just happening in real time.
It's kind of improv at the same time.
Yeah.
And getting punched and breaking your back and all of that all at once.
And then you have to deal with if someone were to actually, what we call, go into business for themselves, like, oh, they're not following what we rehearsed or what we had planned out. This person actually hit me. Okay. All right, I'll let that one slide. Oh, they hit me again. Okay, now I got to give you a receipt, which means I got to hit you back.
Means I have to punch you back, yeah.
Yes. And then
can you punch people in WWE?
It happens
it's not really
a lot.
Punching, right? Oh, does it? Okay.
It happens where, someone will just, as I said, they'll go into business for themselves, or they'll be what we call throwing potatoes, which means they're swinging and they don't care where it lands. So you got to be able to, and some will do that just to test you. They're like, oh, okay, are you really blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like a hazing thing. So some folks, all right, I'm Polynesian. You really want to throw a potato at me? You really want to? Okay. Life will come at you fast. FAFO.
So this is something. This is something you may do in the nearest future.
Possibly.
Okay. Do you think you'd be a heel?
I would want to be.
Right. I feel like you make a great heel.
Oh,
yeah. A great heel. Yeah. That's the most fun. Yeah, playing the villains is more fun.
It is. I get to just trash talk it. And it's like, I'm the type, I will insult someone and then have them trying to figure out, wait, did you insult me? Oh, I made you think, didn't I?
Well, we are all aware of that. You have insulted all your friends and ex-girlfriends already. So we all got a little taste of it here, guys.
Acquaintances, not my friends. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, see, we went a whole different direction with this.
I know, this kind of went all over the place. I feel like I got a very quick masterclass on wrestling. If one day I ever decided to dip my toes. So yes, I learned a lot.
Yes. So I guess wrapping everything up, is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with, or anything you'd like to promote, anything, barring no NDAs or anything? We don't want to put that out there, but is there anything you'd want to leave the audience with before you go?
Honestly, I just really appreciate being on your podcast. Thank you so much for this invitation and great conversation. It's been a lot of fun. And I really hope your listeners enjoyed everything we talked about. Kind of went all over the place. But people can just follow me. I'm really active, relatively active on social media, Twitter and Instagram. I have a little TikTok. You're welcome to find me there if you like. And I have been getting some fan mail from people, and even if I cannot respond to certain requests, or I can't, give you an immediate yes or no about things. I read all of your email. So I just want people to realize that. And I really appreciate that. And yeah, of course, just follow me on socials. I think this is the best way that I can learn more about the fans and also just be part of whatever they're interested in. And hopefully there'll be more games and voiceover work that comes in the future, and I'll share it all there immediately.
Awesome. I will say this though, if you can get a Mai Shiranui Funko Pop, like a lot of my voice actor friends all say, hey, conventions, you got a Funko Pop, it's an automatic. But with the amount of art that's out for Mai, like official and such, I can see you definitely being able to do a lot of that. Like I will get you in touch with the conventions here, because
that would be amazing.
Like all the Street Fighter cast and friends with almost everyone who's a voice acting in Street Fighter and such, and they're out here all the time. So
that would be fantastic. I'd really appreciate that, and I'd love to meet you in person and your lovely wife. It would just be so great to continue this conversation.
Of course.
In Hawaii.
Of course. And with that being said, people, that's the episode. And again, Rebecca, thank you so much for coming on the show. This will be available on audio format. Shout out to our sponsor, Spotify, for sponsoring the show. I'm the only podcaster in Hawaii that has not one, not two, but 3 sponsored shows from Spotify. So shout out to them for checking out the show and supporting it and everything like that. It's available on Spotify. It'll also be available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, all those places. Video format on Spotify as well as on YouTube. And with that being said, all your information or all the information for Rebecca will be in the description. So make sure you go follow her on all her platforms, check out all her work, and hopefully we can do another one after the game comes out. And
absolutely.
So that being said, we are signing out, people. We will see you guys in the next.
Bye.
Mahalo for your time for listening to this episode of the Kasanova podcast, number 1 podcast in Hawaii. If you found this episode to be incredibly enjoyable, informative, or if there's anything you gain from it, or any insight, or anything that's good that you really, really enjoyed, make sure whatever platform you're listening to it on, or if you're watching it, leave a comment if that's available on the platform, like it, share it around with someone you think would enjoy it, and give us some feedback, because your feedback is exactly what we need to keep this show going. And if you're wondering what are some ways that you could support the show, we got various ways. We've got Patreon, we have channel memberships over on YouTube, as well as Subscribestar, Coffee, and so much more. Links for everything will be in the description of the podcast, so make sure you go check that out. And with all that being said, I hope you have an aloha rest of your day.
Let them know that I'm next level. I'm a whole new kind of guy. Yeah. Yes, at the top spot, in case you forgot. We the ones that got the block hot, bullet got the shot. Yeah.